This is Jessie, and you're listening to the Curious Cabinet Podcast. Okay, so I'm going to apologize beforehand because I feel like I've been sick off and on the past couple of weeks because, the kids went back to school and there's all these little germs flying around everywhere. And I have a little bit of a cold, so I apologize if my voice is kind of strange or if you accidentally hear some sniffing or something in the background. But anyway, to the story. Today's podcast is going to be kind of short, but I came across this case and I couldn't really find all that much information on it. I tried, searching on Reddit. I tried searching on Facebook to see if there were any groups in this girl's memorial or, anything dedicated to this case, and I really couldn't. So we're just going to get right into it. On March 12th, 1978, 16-year-old Pauline Robbin Burgett, also just known as Robbin, and that's what I'll be calling her throughout the show, was home alone at her family's duplex apartment. The apartment was near 26th Street and McDowell Road in Phoenix, Arizona. Robbin's mother, Carol, and her younger brother, Chad, had been away for the weekend on a trip. Carol was a single parent and didn't have much money, but she did what she could. The family would spend their weekends at Saguaro Lake and would swim and spend the nights there. Robbin hated wearing shoes and loved the hot summer days. They also did a lot of horseback riding at South Mountain, and this particular weekend, Robbin had decided to stay home and babysit at an apartment in West Phoenix. Robbin had gotten done babysitting early and was dropped back home a little bit early. She was said to have been at a friend's house and left around 8 p.m. on the 11th to go and meet up with a boyfriend, but no one really knew who it was she was meeting up with or where they were planning on going. Friends and neighbors said that they remember seeing her the majority of the day. Police aren't even sure if she actually met up with the person that she had been planning to meet up with, but this was the last time that anybody had really seen her alive. When Chad and Carol arrived back home on the 12th around 5 p.m., Chad walked into his sister's room, eager to see her because the two were very close. But what he encountered next broke his heart forever. He found Robbin's lifeless body lying on her bedroom floor. And trigger warning, this is where I get to the details of the case. She had been beaten with a blunt object, stabbed repeatedly, and an autopsy later revealed that she may have also been sexually assaulted. This part, though, is kind of undetermined. Police aren't sure if the sex she had was consensual or if she was assaulted. Robbin was supposed to be staying at a friend's house that night, but she told her friends she was supposed to go meet with a boyfriend. Like I said before, no one knows if she met up with that person or who that person was she was supposed to meet with. They just know that she never returned to her friend's house that night. It is suspected that she may have known the person who killed her since there were no signs of forced entry. So she must have invited the person or let them inside. With nothing missing from the property, police had ruled out robbery as a motive. One of the biggest problems with this case is that Robbins had a lot of ex-boyfriends and a lot of boyfriends. So it's hard for police to make a conclusion if this part was part of the assault or if she had seen someone earlier that day. I'm assuming that the DNA collected was from the either assault or from the consensual sex. It was determined that there were two different people that they collected DNA from. But with the lack of information that I could find, I'm not sure if both samples were collected from her or if that there was other DNA found within the home. Police believe that the crime was committed by one of her boyfriends or ex-boyfriends because it clearly seemed like it was an act of rage. Like I said, Robbin was said to be involved with a number of different boys, and she had recently also dropped out of high school. This also made it a little more complicated because she was said to have known a lot of people in general, and it seems like she wasn't really telling a lot of her friends about her plans. It seems just to me like that there was a decent amount of information about Robbin that she kept to herself, and that some of the things she was doing and some of the people she knew or she was hanging out with weren't known to all of her friends or her close friends or her mom or anything like that. So at that time, there were a few people that they considered suspects. They compared the DNA to Robbin's boyfriend at the time, and I guess some of her known ex-boyfriends, and it didn't match anybody. Authorities found minimal evidence and clues at the scene as to who may be behind this crime. They carefully collected evidence, including the DNA, and it was long before DNA was such a big factor in crime scene processing. But that's probably the only thing that might eventually help them crack this case. Phoenix Police cold case detective Clark Schwarzkopf explained that although it's good to have the DNA evidence, it's kind of useless unless you can match it to a suspect. And as I said earlier, they aren't even sure if the DNA they found was from an assault or if it was consensual, and then the murder happened after the consensual sex occurred. She also had a problem with some of the men at the apartment complex where she would babysit. Some of the people there had allegedly been threatening her. Again, I couldn't find any information on who it was or why they were threatening her, so that's kind of strange in itself. There was another man there who had been making advances towards her for about 3 weeks before her murder. I don't think that it was one of the same people who was threatening her, but I'm not 100% positive it wasn't. It was said that he was making advances towards multiple people and not just Robbin, so I just wanted to point that out. This man's name was never released to the public, but the DNA was tested and he did not match it. Just 3 years after Robbin's murder, Carol, her mother, a diabetic, passed away. Robbin's brother Chad said his mother never recovered from Robbin's death, the devastation leading her to stop taking her insulin. That's so awful that she never got to find out who did it. But there's just so many pieces to this case that have gone unanswered, and I just don't think, it seems like all the leads weren't investigated into, and a lot of this kind of seemed to be mishandled. So some theories as to what really happened that night, just some that I've read and some that I've thought about by myself. It was an ex-boyfriend. No sign of forced entry and nothing taken. She let the person inside, so obviously she knew them or she was expecting them to be there. It was her current boyfriend at the time, so maybe he was jealous. Maybe he walked in on her doing something with someone. She did say earlier when she was hanging out with a close friend that she had told them she had plans to see her boyfriend that night. So maybe there was an altercation, or maybe, like I said, she was just seeing multiple people at the same time and someone got jealous. Another theory is that, she had been babysitting at that complex for an extended period of time. The one where she was receiving the threats and the creepy guy who was, making advances towards her. Some people do think that maybe someone gave her a ride home a couple of times, remembered where she lived, and then just happened to come and visit her that night, or maybe knew she was going to be home alone that night and just took advantage of the moment. It could have happened because maybe this person was stalking her, or maybe it was the person who was threatening her. This person just could have committed the crime and went home and acted like nothing happened because they weren't associated that well with her. So they kind of just flew under the radar. Or maybe it was none of that. Maybe it was a neighbor from in her apartment building who took advantage of her when she was home alone. Maybe she had met with a boyfriend that night. He left, and then the killer came to her place after she saw him leave. You think that someone would have noticed or stated that there was a boy leaving the apartment that night, but you never really know. It's late. I mean, she did live in a duplex, so, people might hear things or hear people in there, but it could have been late at night and no one could have been awake, so I don't know. But I'm just wondering also when the last time this case had been re-examined, and when was the last time the DNA has been tested or put into any system. You see every day how DNA retesting has helped so many cold cases get solved. And I'm really hoping that maybe soon they will retest this and they can use the DNA to prove who committed this crime. And like I said before, I did look for some Facebook groups in her memory or about Kate's updates, and I really couldn't find much about it. I know there's not a lot of information in this, but I'm hoping that sharing this will maybe get the case back in the public eye again. I'm not sure if her brother Chad is still alive, but I know that he's in pain and searching for his sister's killer if he is. But that's it for today. Thank you for checking out this episode. And don't forget to find me on Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok, and subscribe to my channel. Until next week, guys.